Earning the 2 Comma Club award is like hitting the 4-minute mile, but that doesn't mean that once you reach that milestone that it's a finish line.
Nope.
You cross the threshold, you hit the target, and hopefully celebrate it. Sometimes entrepreneurs get too excited about the next goal that they forget to celebrate. But then you assess, you move the target further, and so I want to share with you in this video the lessons, the heartbreaks, and at times the scandals that occurred on the way to my 2 Comma Club awards. The lessons I learned on the way to earning my first 2 Comma Club award I would define as identity, trust, and know your numbers. So my first 2 Comma Club award, funny enough, my brother held it hostage for a little while. It arrived to my house in Canada while I was in the States, and I didn't even know that it arrived for a long time, so that's why it says Marley's bro. He did the unboxing video. Really cute, really hilarious. But the first 2 Comma Club award really did feel like the 4-minute mile. I remember seeing people at Funnel Hacking Live, just like me, crossing the stage and earning their 2 Comma Club award. And I first thought, like, there's no way how it couldn't be done, just like people did think about the 4-minute mile. But then eventually after someone did run it, then people eventually were able to run it in like 3 minutes and 43 seconds. I think that's the record now. Being able to see other people earn it showed me what was possible. I used to be a dental hygienist thinking that just $100,000 a year would be a dream. All you really need is someone else to show you that it is possible and expand that vision. That's why I love listening to podcasts from successful entrepreneurs or creators and analyzing what's happened in their lives to get them to where they are. And not just the actions they took, like sure, that's super important, but the actions without the identity behind it won't get you there. Hard work alone doesn't mean success. So I started to learn this in the pursuit of my first 2 Comma Club award. I had a coach that taught me about the phrase be, do, have. Who do you want to be? What do you need to do to have what you want to have? And really understanding that at an identity level, you can't just do your way there. You really have to be that identity. And he pointed out that what was driving me at that time was external validation. I was super codependent in my relationships with my clients. I defined myself by the amount of money that I had or how happy my clients were with me. I had no boundaries. Like if a client called and said, hey, I need you to stay up all night and do this, I'd say yes because I wanted to maintain that relationship, which was super unhealthy. At this time, financially, how I got the 2 Comma Club award was that I was selling a service and I was dabbling in some courses and coaching programs. I wanted to be able to reach more than 1-to-1. So I was starting to dabble, but really I was selling a service that was between $5,000 to $10,000 a month. So in my mind, I was like, if I get 20 clients at $5,000 a month or 8 clients at $10,000 a month, I'd hit $1 million in a year. But I was doing a lot of the work myself. You know, I as a solopreneur, which is great, but realized that I did shift in my identity. Eventually, I hit a ceiling that I could only work so many hours in the day and couldn't do it all myself. So I had to shift in my identity from solopreneur to entrepreneur, CEO, and start to hire a team. But I was also learning to trust myself. I hired people at first that I couldn't really afford. I've always been really eager to invest in myself, and something that I say when making a financial decision is, but can I afford not to? But I didn't know what I didn't know, so I naively put my trust into other people with a vision that it would all pay off. You know, we hear we're just one funnel away. But what I learned from that is that you do not rise to the level of your goals, you will fall to the level of your systems. I was brand new to being a leader, and I just had this goal that I wanted to be able to shift from being a service provider, having an agency, to also having courses and coaching programs. So I invested in all these, programs. We learned from Russell, learned from ClickFunnels about how to do this, how to build funnels, how to run Facebook ads to them, how to run a webinar. And I did what you're told to do every week, just run a webinar until it converts, until you hit $1 million, just keep doing it. And so I hired all the people around me to help me. I hired an expensive copywriter who was really great at writing copy, and I paid them a lot to write my webinar and help me with the program. I built the entire program, so spent a lot of time and energy and effort and money into producing the program, which now we know about pre-launching a program. So I spent a lot of time and effort there on something that didn't convert yet. I hired a salesperson anticipating that once I started these webinars that I was going to get a bunch of sales calls, and I put a lot of money into hiring the best ad agency out there to run Facebook ads, and then dumped a ton of money into those Facebook ads to get people to the webinar, which didn't convert the first time, or second time, or third time, or 17th time. And so I believed in myself so much. I thought, it's okay, we're just going to keep tweaking, we're going to figure this out, I'm going to ask for help. I have so many mentors around me that I can get help from. And I believed in myself so much that I allowed myself to go into a lot of debt with these Facebook ads and keeping people on staff that I really couldn't afford. And at one point, I just got so far into debt. I hadn't paid myself in so long. I was really paying my employees and paying for the Facebook ads, just hoping that one day it was going to pay off. You hear all these stories of these entrepreneurs that they were hustling their faces off and dragging their face against the pavement, and then eventually it all paid off and it was this big happily ever moment. But that was not my story. I remember calling one of my mentors, Alex Sharfin, and just being so honest with him about what was happening, that, I had the revenue because I still had my services that I was fulfilling. I had clients that were paying me $5,000 to $10,000 a month, but then I was putting so much money into trying to invest in another area of my company to be able to scale. Alex stayed up late with me on the phone that night and was like, we just have to stop the bleed. Like, you have to fire everyone. And so that was a really tough call to make, but that next morning I got on Zoom with my team and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't afford to keep paying you anymore. It was especially painful because, I care about my team like they're my family. I had to cut them off right there, and I was already 6 figures in debt. Alex helped me, coach me through that of like, stop the bleed, triage, immediately get revenue positive because I didn't have these really expensive expenses anymore with the team. And I stopped running Facebook ads and just had to move forward now. And I had to take back all control with my tail between my legs. I went back to my remaining team. I still had my brother, who actually has worked for me since the beginning of my business. And I had a social media manager / copywriter. And I remember getting on the huddle that day and telling them what happened and just being really honest. At that point, I hadn't shared the financial struggles we were in because I thought that would cause red flags for them. I thought that it wasn't strong for a leader to admit where we were failing. What was really tender, and I'll never forget it, is that they were really comforting and they really responded so positively to the vulnerability that I was willing to share. And they stepped up. They were like, it's an honor to work through this with you and be in the trenches with you and dig our way out, which was it was so touching. And I'll never forget it. Those employees who stayed with me are still with me today. So Alex Sharfin, my mentor and one of my favorite people in the world, continued to support me through that transition of removing all of the expenses, but then having all of the work fall back onto me because I still had to fulfill for the clients that we had. I still was managing the team. I was still, trying to get more clients in the door and have this course and this coaching program stood up so that I would have other revenue opportunities. But I did it bare bones. I would get on sales calls myself 8 hours a day and then work another 6 to 8 hours in the evening just to fulfill on everything that I was selling. And it was pretty crazy. We made some podcasts about it on Alex's Momentum podcast, sharing the play-by-play of what was happening. And it was cool to get the response from people where they were saying they had gone through vulnerable times in their business where they didn't realize they could share with their team vulnerably about what was going on financially. And now my mindset in business is to just share everything financially. Here's our revenue, here's our expenses, here's what's going on, so that the whole team has transparency around what we're working towards, where we're winning, and where we need to maybe step up. Also, at the time of this entire fiasco, my marriage was also ending. My marriage ended around the same time that I actually got to put in my application for this award. And I didn't know at the time that my work was also a coping mechanism to avoid the pain in my marriage. We just wanted different things. And I think tried to shift each other into being what the other wanted. When we got married, I was a dental hygienist. And then I found entrepreneurship. So that wasn't the lifestyle that he signed up for. I spoke at Funnel Hacking Live 3 weeks after announcing publicly that my marriage ended. And I didn't really know exactly how I wanted to approach that. I have a whole video on my channel of announcing my name change and that the marriage had ended. It was a really tough time. And I remember talking to Russell before speaking at Funnel Hacking Live and saying should I change my name before or after? I just don't want to step on that stage as Marley the divorce girl. And he showed me some resources and connected me to some people that had also gone through a rebranding after a divorce. And I just consciously decided that from what I'd learned in being vulnerable with my team of what was going on in the business, I just decided to be vulnerable with my audience about what was happening, obviously with tact, not sharing things that might have been inappropriate to the public or things that were just within our marriage. But I wanted to share that even though I was going through something so transitional and heartbreaking, that I was dedicated to just persevering, and I wanted to just share it as a story of perseverance. That even as I stepped onto stage at Funnel Hacking Live to this audience of 5,000 people, like such a dream come true, and everything that I had envisioned it being, minus the fact that my marriage and my personal life was falling apart, that I just wanted to show that like you can do hard things even if you think you can't, and just shows you how strong you are, and that helping people doesn't stop just because your life isn't perfect, and no one's is. So in this time of being on sales calls all day and then having to fulfill everything else in the evening, I was working my butt off. I was exhausted. Like there were times where I was just like, oh, am I gonna get through this? But it was actually one of the most transformational times in my personal development, in my career, because being in that opportunity of being on the sales calls with my audience showed me exactly what they needed. They would tell me in their own language what their pain points were. And guess what? I would take that language and I would turn it into my sales copy. I would turn it into the copy that was on the landing page. I would turn it into the follow-up emails. I would be able to repeat it back on sales calls so they knew that I understood their problems. I had some friends in Inner Circle that taught sales training, and just as friends, they got on a call with me and gave me some really great advice. At the time, their program was like $15,000 or something, and knowing how much in debt I was like, I can't afford. And even though one of the things I would say is like, but can you afford not to? Like, I really could not afford not to. My house was on the line. But they gave me some really great advice on a sales call that I had coming up about like, hey, what if you positioned it as a VIP intensive day, and then from there you're able to sell them into your high ticket service after that. But you like start with selling like a VIP day where you can create the strategy, and then it gives them the option of they can move forward and work with you or implement it on their own. I'd never sold a day of consulting with me before, and they were encouraging me that I could sell it for like $15,000. I couldn't imagine charging someone that much money, but they talked me through it. They really encouraged me, and I got on that next sales call, and when I pitched the price, they said yes. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. And being able to do it once gave me the permission to be able to do it again. And I did it again. And that next client that I sold was Damon John from Shark Tank. And I flew out to his office in New York City and consulted with his team for a day. It was such an exciting thing to be like, wow, I did it. And then with that money, I invested in that sales program and then got even better at my sales calls, learned even more what my audience was wanting from me, and I turned it around. And within a few months, I was back on top again. I was able to start hiring more help in my team. This time I did it a lot differently. I hired slower. I really took the time to hire for company culture. And I was a lot better at knowing my numbers and not just excessively spending without knowing the ROI on it. Now, what happened next, you'll never believe. That's how people put hooks in videos, right? So I got my 2 Comma Club award. So exciting. Actually, my brother got my 2 Comma Club award. I had already left Canada after my divorce, and through the pandemic, I was in a relationship with someone that crashed and burned. Then I came to Boise to live with one of my best friends. At this point, I had no idea that my 2 Comma Club award arrived in Canada. My brother did an unboxing video, and then eventually I was like, I wonder if that ever arrived. And my brother was like, yeah, by the way, I have it. And he made some really funny pictures where he would like take it to visit my grandfather in the old folks home, and he'd be holding it, or he would dress it up for like the hockey game that was going on that day. And anyway, he just had a lot of fun with it. And so sometimes I would like share these photos on social media and they got a funny response. The responses started to get like weird one day. I started seeing these rumors online, like lots of stuff going on social media about someone who had financed their 2 Comma Club award. And I didn't know what that meant, and like I just didn't really look into it very much because I was like, oh, whatever, some gossip drama, not interested. But then one day I got a Vox from my friend Alex Sharfin. And he's like, hey, you need to hear this from someone that loves you. Those rumors are about you. And I was like, what? What does that even mean? Finance, what does that mean? He told me that he was getting some messages from people because knowing that we were friends, I guess this rumor was spreading that I faked my 2 Comma Club award, that I put money on my own credit card to put it through my own funnel to show that I made this money, or that I like fabricated because you have to send in images and videos to prove how much money's gone through your Stripe account, your PayPal, whatever payment processor. And someone was saying that I made it up. And so people were like messaging Alex or even messaging ClickFunnels too and saying like, are you gonna still associate with her or revoke the award? And it was so confusing because I was like, where did this come from? I had a bad falling out with a friend. There was some other, online gossip that I didn't want to associate myself with. And these rumors started coming out. And as soon as Alex pointed out, like, where they were coming from, I realized how they started. At first, I didn't want to address it because I was like, I know the truth. I don't feel like I need to defend myself. But I eventually made a video just because I still saw posts about it and I didn't know if my name was getting caught up in it, that people, was ruining my reputation. So I eventually made a video, which I can link below because I think I was pretty well-spoken in sharing this story. I shared exactly what I shared before about how I invested a lot of money into Facebook ads and I invested money into the team, and like I made a bunch of mistakes along the way. Saying like you're just one funnel away doesn't always mean like it's the first time. It means that you fail forward. It means that you optimize and you tweak and you learn and you do better. And like, yeah, my first 2 Comma Club award was not very profitable at all. I was in a lot of debt, but the mistakes that I made were tuition in learning how to become profitable, how to build a system instead of being a solopreneur, how to build it in a way that actually fulfills my lifestyle, how to work in a way that I'm working from a fuel source of passion rather than coping and pain. And so I shared this story. I shared a little bit about my background and like where my values come from and watching my parents as business owners. And I addressed the rumors a little bit, just saying like, I've always been honest that I was in debt. Like, if you go back to the podcast that I did with Alex Sharfin, I shared it. And the 2 Comma Club award is about revenue, not about profit. And honestly, this 2 Comma Club award was not very profitable. But the lessons that I learned along the way to earning it were invaluable. My second 2 Comma Club award that I earned in 2021, the lessons of this one I would define as relationships, learning how to build a relationship with my audience, culture, company culture, and systems, both the systems within my team and marketing with evergreen marketing systems. So as I mentioned, the first 2 Comma Club award required a lot of me. And as a result, I would always fall to the level of my systems, which at that time were like, not very many. I was the system. I was also finding my new identity after my divorce. I was also finding my new identity from like solopreneur to CEO. And after my divorce, especially, I really had to reinvent myself. I think therapy for entrepreneurs is essential. I talk a lot about this on my YouTube channel too. I've talked about even doing some psychedelic therapy, which go check out those videos if you're interested in that. I believe that business is a game of personal development. If you don't have the business that you want, it's because you haven't become the person who can run it yet. So with the first 2 Comma Club award, I proved to myself that I can run that 4-minute mile. And the second one, the goal is to run that 4-minute mile faster or with more profit to it. And with this one, I certainly did have profit to it. I felt more aligned. After crashing and burning, failing, letting down a team in the pursuit of my first 2 Comma Club award, I did sales calls myself to really learn how to sell. And then eventually I was able to hire my first in-house sales rep that was amazing and aligned with me. And at this point, I knew the systems. I knew how to be able to lead in this department because I had to walk that path first. And then I started to run a challenge. I'd heard so much in Inner Circle and in ClickFunnels about people running challenges as a marketing system. And I was just like, this sounds so fun. I could totally teach like day by day how to implement the system that builds a YouTube channel that's profitable. And so we created the Infinite Video Impact Challenge, and it was awesome. It was scalable. We ran it like every other month or so. And we built a system around it so that it could mostly run evergreen other than me showing up for the live trainings. And what was so cool is that I was able to build an audience by providing this value. I started the challenge actually during my divorce. I felt like this relationship with my audience was really special because I could share vulnerably at times about what I was going through without the details. And the response from that was just so sweet. I'd recently changed my last name at that time. And it was cool to see how my audience really surrounded me in that. It's crazy that sometimes you think that by being vulnerable or that by sharing things that maybe you'd be ashamed about, that maybe people would step back because it's something that I would think that people would be ashamed of me because my marriage didn't work out and I'd failed and I didn't have my life together, but really people surrounded me. My audience even came up with getting jaxed, which was something that they ended up like saying so much that we put it on a t-shirt. It was so cool that the audience really surrounded me, and I learned how to build a relationship with an audience, not by coming across as professional and buttoned up and like I have it all together, but just by coming across real. That was a huge lesson for me. Because you never know who's listening that needs to hear what you have to say. And you also never know who's listening that could give you an answer that you need. So the Infinite Video Impact Challenge did really well. And the intention was that they would come through this 21-day challenge, and then at the end of it, I could tell them about the next offer and ascend them into my courses or my coaching program. And at this point, we knew our numbers, so running ads to it was more scalable. We tweaked the offer a few times though, because I'll say the first challenge that we ran, I did not know how to pitch well. Like, I was good on sales calls at this point, but I didn't know how to pitch from like a group session or a webinar. So we made good money on the front end, but honestly, we crashed and burned on the back end. I pitched a high ticket thing and it just totally flopped. So the next time we ran the challenge, we tweaked the challenge, we changed the offer, we changed the emails, we changed the follow-up system. Something that I learned from that experience though was I had an operator at the time that was hesitant to change. And I learned about creating a company culture that speaks to being adaptable and flexible and providing our audience what we see that they're asking for. You know, that's marketing. You scale what works, or you kill or optimize what doesn't. Like, you think I'm gonna keep dumping ad spend into something that we've already confirmed did not convert? Been there, done that with the first 2 Comma Club award, right? And luckily still got out alive. So that's where I started to learn more about company culture and leadership and leading a team by having a clearer vision and really trusting in myself to stand in that vision and be open to adapt. So I was figuring out marketing and leadership. With this second 2 Comma Club award, I had a team. I was building a company culture, and I really learned a lot more from Alex Sharfin. He has this quote that he says about correcting the process, not the person. And I recognized in stepping into leadership where I had trauma from previous employers where I felt like I was always in trouble, especially if I got something wrong. So when Alex talks about correcting the process, not the person, it gave me full permission, radical ownership, accountability, responsibility for me being the person that can support the process and in creating the process. And sometimes that means that if there is a person that doesn't follow the process, that falls on us to be able to hire well, onboard well, train well, but then also see where the process can show you the gaps in your business. And for me, I eventually changed out some people on my team, and it was really multiplication by subtraction. When you remove things from your business that aren't serving you, it allows the rest of the team and the whole company to really elevate. So after a few iterations of the challenge, it was awesome. We brought a lot of people into our course and our coaching program. We were able to validate that graduation training that we do at the end of the 21 days. And once we validated that, I started to run just that training, that 1-hour training, as a weekly webinar, which was what I always wanted to do. Started in the first 2 Comma Club award. And that was really successful. We built relationships with other entrepreneurs with a similar audience who needed what I sold. We JV'd with them to pitch to their audience and share that revenue. One of the most exciting days of my career was speaking at Ray Higdon's event. And I think there were like 3,000 people in the virtual audience, and we sold over 300 people into my program that night. And I remember stepping off the stage, and my friend Mandy was there, and she had like tears in her eyes holding my phone, and the Stripe notifications were just blowing up like crazy, which I think is every entrepreneur's dream, to feel that momentum and feel like, yes, like the hard work has paid off, I've made it. And then finally that 2 Comma Club award, I actually got to physically open myself. Yay. My third and most recent 2 Comma Club award is the first one that I earned with Steven. We merged our businesses together at the beginning of 2022. And actually there's a video on my channel about it, how Alex and Layla Formosi, we call it the intervention, the $100 million intervention, because we were talking to them as friends, and they encouraged us to go into business together, which was awesome, exciting, such a cool move for our business and also for our relationship. And so we shared more of the story there, but we merged our businesses together, created a new irresistible offer, knowing Steven, he is like the offer creation guru. He is amazing at that. And I just feel so lucky to be able to learn from him and also be able to work with him and collaborate with his genius. We created the YouTube lead machine. And it was really exciting that we had everything planned like December, January. And in January of 2022, we were going to do our first event to launch the business, to announce that we were working together and launch this new program. About a week before we officially launched, my doctor called and I got a diagnosis. I was diagnosed with cervical adenocarcinoma. And so it's obviously unexpected and shocking, and did not expect to start a business while also being in a lot of emotional turmoil and figuring out, what does this mean for the next phase of my life? Didn't plan to start a business and then also having this huge life-changing event at the same time. I have more videos on my channel sharing some of the behind the scenes of the diagnosis and what I did to pursue a treatment path. This video is about the 2 Comma Club awards, so I'll share with it. At that time, I was all over the place. It was a bit of an emotional roller coaster, but work for me has always been something that is fulfilling and gives me momentum. So we launched our business with this event and this brand new offer, and knowing Steve and how great he is at creating an irresistible offer, we first launched by selling a $20,000 offer from stage, and we had some really cool pay in full bonuses that anyone that paid in full, they'd get a call with me and Steve, and that sold like hotcakes. We also sold our done for you offer, and since the pay in full worked so well, we offered again with a half-day one-on-one intensive, and we got some 6-figure pay in fulls. January, the first month of our business, was intense emotionally and financially, and we were still a super small team. And at that time, we're like finding our footing with merging our businesses and new team members, like from my team, from Steve's team, finding our new company culture. And for me personally, I was trying to understand this new path ahead of me with my health. Things worked really well with our offer and our event and our launches. We contracted over $1 million in the first 60 days of business, and then just collected over, I think it took 3 or 4 months to collect $1 million. We had to hire fast while staying afloat emotionally, while being able to deliver everything physically that we sold, which was crazy. So we also had to intentionally take some time to slow down to speed up. I'm going to quote Alex Sharfin again. Alex Sharfin talks about your business will always be broken, and if all goes well, that's a good thing. And what that means is there's 5 core functions in your business: lead generation, lead nurture, lead conversion, fulfillment, delivery, and retention and upsell. So for us, we created this new offer and it converted so well. So then we had to shut down revenue. We had to shut down lead generation so that we could focus more on fulfillment and delivery. So it's interesting to be conscious of that in the business, of where you're fluctuating in your efforts and your energies. That we sold a lot, but if we kept selling like that, you can actually break. And it sounds like it's a good problem to have, but if you can't fulfill on your promises, and if you under-deliver and over-promise, you will not have another business to be able to keep and generating leads and converting them. So that was a really interesting paradox to have. I'd never had that in my companies before. It was really cool to put our strengths together with where we both come from in marketing, and Stephen with offer creation, and me with delivery and customer retention and culture, and all the feel goods that come with fulfilling with customers in a business. And it was such a cool experience to be able to grow this business together and be able to play to our strengths. And of course, there's challenges in working in any business and also working with your partner. We found where we both had amazing ideas and had to come to the table and collaborate. We found where we both work differently. For me, I love collaborating with a team and working in the day-to-day. And for Steven, his strength is give him cave time with his whiteboard to be a beautiful mind all over that whiteboard, and then come back out with his vision. And so it took us a little bit of time to be able to figure that out. And of course, like anything, there's little bumps along the way, but it's really taught us a lot more about ourselves and about how we are in relationship and how we are in business. And so earning that first 2 Comma Club award together was really exciting. And now the next goal is to get towards 10. And just like every 2 Comma Club award that I've earned so far, I learned so much along the way. I am able to hit that 4-minute mile faster, whether that means more profitable or actually speed, or just the lessons I learned along the way just being so much more valuable. And so as much as I see these awards as recognition of achieving a milestone, I also really see them as encouragement to just keep going and shifting your identity at every level, because you'll hear the phrase what got you here won't get you there. What got you here, if I continued to operate in not knowing my numbers, or trying to still be a solopreneur, or not having a company culture, or not being able to play to strengths and weaknesses and overcome emotional hurdles along the way, I certainly wouldn't earn another one of these again. I mentioned several videos in this video where I documented the journey, like me speaking at Funnel Hacking Live while my marriage was falling apart, the rumors, the scandal around me faking my 2 Comma Club award, also what I'd gone through with hiring and rebuilding a team and creating a new culture, how the Hermosis encouraged Stephen and I to go into business together, how I also overcame my struggles with cancer. I'm going to link all those below. Go check those out and be sure to subscribe.